What's that smell?
Oh, that would be me. I've been swimming in raw sewage. I love it. I love it.
That's the signal. Let's go. Do it.
Welcome to Trimming the Musical Fat. I'm Stephen Nicholson.
And I'm Paul Nicholson.
And in today's episode, we'll look back on the first year of the show and have a look at what free albums we enjoyed discovering or rediscovering the most disappointing album, the free episodes we enjoyed recording the most. Paul tries to answer 5 questions in the 2021 TTMF podcast statistics quiz. That was easy to say. We'll reveal the name of our new sister podcast and talk about some of the artists, songs and albums we'll cover in 2022. So, Paul, how have you found your first year of podcasting?
Really enjoyed it. It's been really interesting, and I think initially as well because of the whole COVID thing. Actually, for me, it was a way of connecting with people, friends you maybe hadn't really been in contact with much. So I think even on that level, it was great, and just it's good revisiting albums you've maybe not heard in a while. And I think one of the big fun things for me is when you're doing a podcast, like one of the shows, and things just happen that aren't planned, like comedic elements to it when we can't say our lines properly and things like that. So I think all of it has been really enjoyable, and I feel as the times went on, we've got better and better, and but that only comes through learning it and maybe making a few mistakes and stuff. But that's the way you learn, and I think, you know, from where we were to where we are now, it's totally different. So it's been really, really enjoyable. Yes. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You learn by doing, don't you? So, and I think as time goes on, you yourself, I think, pick up on things, or people will maybe give you ideas. So that's been great. But yeah, I agree with you. It's just been nice, a really nice way in these times, especially to be able to connect with your friends via this kind of method, whereas you would maybe be seeing people, whether it's a social thing or football or whatever it might be, you're not really getting that in these current times. So it's just a really good way to keep connecting with your friends and obviously discussing something that we're all very, very passionate about, which is music. So it's been good. I think also on a personal level, I think it's just been nice to have something new and different to try. I think when in lockdown, COVID, we do have that little bit more time, and it's just nice to be able to do something positive with it, and obviously connect with so many people around the world as well. That's obviously fantastic to know that people are listening in all these countries around the world, and you hope enjoying what we do, which is fabulous.
Absolutely.
So let's maybe talk about some of the things that we covered in the podcast over this year. So maybe ask the question, what's been the 3 albums you've most enjoyed listening to and talking about in the podcast during 2021?
So yeah, it's quite a hard question because there's part of me almost equates enjoying the album with doing the podcast show, but I suppose they're quite different. But for me, probably certainly one of the 3 would be our very first one, because it's always special doing your first one, and it was the White Album, the Beatles. And it was just really nice because it was a new thing, doing a new thing, like what we were talking about, making connections with people we maybe hadn't spoken to in a
Mhm.
while. And our dad was on the first one as well, and it was just a really nice experience. And obviously the album, it's like an amazing album, and it was interesting hearing about the background behind the album as well, and people's views and thoughts on the album and what it meant to them. So I would say certainly one of them would be the White Album.
The Vietnam riots. The Vietnam riots.
Down now.
The Vietnam riots.
When I was in now.
The Rodney Marsh riots.
The Rodney Marsh riots, that's right.
Oh, the Vietnam.
I was in the
Let
jungle.
me see if I can. Oh, that's right. Let me see.
Robert Kennedy as well. He was assassinated in '68, wasn't
That's right, he was assassinated.
I enjoyed listening to that. Be Here Now, Oasis, because I wasn't a big fan of it. I remember buying it when it came out in '97, but I wasn't a big fan of it. But listening to it again and just also hearing the kind of deluxe edition as well, that you hear different versions and stuff. So that was one that I was quite surprised that I enjoyed listening to the album.
Yeah, it's a really good album, I think.
Cool, thank you. And Jamie, what about you? You gave it 3 out of 5, so you've obviously gone back and revisited it, and what you're thinking about it now.
Yeah, I mean, there's some really good songs on there. I think I gave it a 3 because coming off the back of definitely maybe in What's the Story, and then I think this was released just after Nebworth as well, which kind of put a lot of hype around it, and I think parts of it are maybe just a little bit long, a little bit unnecessary, and I think they tried to make it sound a little bit more colossal than it needed. And funnily enough, kind of going back and listening to the deluxe version of the album, like some of the demos are probably better than a lot of the songs that were on the original cut. So yeah, sits in the middle for me.
And probably another one from the '90s, The Great Escape by Blur. That was good, because I hadn't listened to that for years, and really good album. And it just reminds you of that time as well, where you were when you first heard it, and also, like I say, hearing about other people's experiences. That's what made it enjoyable. Yeah.
Well, it's not really a joke. It's more of an observation, because I actually have Park Life as my alarm clock when it goes off in the morning, so it wakes me up every single day, except for Wednesdays when I'm rudely awakened by the dustbin.
I think it's leaving the house.
Yeah, I remember, Davey, going to the Blur gig in 1999 at the Corn Exchange, and someone stole my glasses, and the rest of the night was just a blur. Yeah, for me, but I think I've enjoyed all the albums that we've covered this year, which is great. And I think that's one of the nice things about doing the podcast. It makes you re-listen to an album you've not listened to in a long time, and really give it a proper listen, which is brilliant. But I think the 3 for me that I maybe enjoyed the most, the first one would be Bruce Springsteen's The River. And that was an album I had never listened to before. And obviously Davey Mellon is a resident Bruce Springsteen fan, so he'd recommended it. I'd never listened to it before, and I've said it in the podcast, I thought this was going to be quite a gloomy acoustic type album, and it's not. And I just remember putting that album on for the first time and going, whoa, and just the energy on it is fantastic. And for a double album, there's really only one song that I didn't enjoy, so that was just such a pleasant.
It was the Blackpool keyboard song.
No, I like that one. It was. Oh, it's the second last song. Can't remember. It's David's favourite on it. It's his favourite song. But anyway, so I really, really enjoyed that album. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah. So, and it was that song as well. I mean, 8 minutes. It's just a bit. Yeah, not great.
Well, this is the only song on the album that I don't like, and one of the reasons for that is that it's too long. But yeah, I just actually find the song a bit boring, too long. Um, this is the one where I think it does veer into being overwrought. I think especially towards the end, I think Springsteen veers into that kind of
Like his
singing.
Band-Aid.
Yeah,
The world voice. Yeah.
yeah. I just kind of turn off at that. And who's he buying shoes for, Davey? I'm gonna buy you shoes.
Baby, baby, baby. Oh, fly on again.
We are the world. We are the people. Forward. And the second one would be another, well, it's a triple album this time, but All Things Must Pass, George Harrison. And I had heard quite a number of the tracks before, but never really sat down and listened to the entire album properly from beginning to end. And that was an album where you kind of listen to it maybe once or twice. Then by the time you get to 5 or 6 listens, you go, that's absolutely amazing. The quality of songs on there is sensational. And the third disc of that is more studio jams. I think that's what they call it, didn't the Apple Jam?
Yeah.
That for me, that's, I can disregard that. It's a bit of a novelty thing. But the first 2 discs, there's just not a bad song on it. It's a fantastic record. And something I didn't know until researching for the podcast is that George Harrison actually wrote this song in 1966, but it was rejected for inclusion on by the other Beatles, which is why you would think that George Harrison, must have been stewing for years and years, thinking, I'm writing all these great songs, and they're just not getting a look in here. Because a lot of the material on this album were songs that were rejected by the other Beatles. The title track is an example, and they're all great songs.
Yeah, because they played it. It's on the. I mean, it might be in the Peter Jackson film when it comes out, but they rehearsed that during the Get Back sessions, isn't it? A pity.
That's right.
Yeah, just rejected it. Along All Things Was Past is on it as well. Yeah, that's
right.
That song that's on there.
And the last one would probably be another album I hadn't listened to all the way through before, which was Pink Floyd's The Wall. And obviously a concept album, but yeah, it's a great record, double album. But it was just nice to listen to that, enjoy it, and also have a really good. And who was on that? Was it Paul Murphy and Alan Trainor that were on that episode? Or was it Davey? It was Davey.
No, I don't think Paul was on it. I think it was just
Davey and Alan. Yeah, it was Davey and Alan. And obviously they knew a lot about it. So they've listened to it for a long time, and it was just great to hear what they had to say about it, and obviously some of the facts that they had. So it was just really good to get to know that album as well. Jesus, right, okay. I was the lone dissenter on this one here, and the thing is, I actually do quite like this song. I just don't think it fits tonally with maybe the sound of the rest of the album. I think this is where it veers into Sweeney Todd full-on musical territory, and as I mentioned already, when Roger Waters is kind of reaching for that screechy high
Nobody
notes,
does it better.
yeah, it turns me off a bit too histrionic for me. Although there is, yeah, to be fair, lots to like about it. Great orchestration and everything, but yeah, it never made it for me. So yeah, those were the 3 I probably enjoyed. All of them I wasn't rediscovering; I was discovering them, so that was really nice. So what's been your most disappointing album that we've covered, do you reckon?
Probably Radiohead, Amnesiac, Kid A. And I mean, I hadn't heard the albums before, but just found it a bit bland.
Mm.
A bit disappointed in the album. I mean, there was some good stuff on it, but funnily enough, I enjoyed doing the show. I enjoyed doing the show better than the album because it was obviously quite a lot of the songs are a bit repetitive and downbeat. So it was quite funny kind of going through them all because for me, a lot of them just sounded like the same song.
Mm-hmm.
So I really enjoyed the podcast show, but I didn't really enjoy the album.
So I'll maybe kick us off talking about Amnesiac then. So for me, it was great to get this so quickly after Kid A, and I'd heard a number of songs when I seen the band play in Glasgow Green during 2000. And I do remember that night that Knives Out really stood out. Obviously, that hadn't been released at that point, so it was great to finally get it when the album came out. Anyway, this was going to be the album that Kid A should have been for me, right? So it was going to be chock full of guitars and normal songs, and then I played it. And for me, it's another good, if again, another patchy album. I think there's 3 to 4 great tunes on it. Yes, there is more guitar. Yes, it is a bit more traditional sounding than Kid A, but yeah, it's good, not great. I just think of things like, did we really need another version of Morning Bell? And what I found quite amusing going back to these albums is that, and listening to them again, is Kid A has actually went up in my estimation in the last 20 years, and Amnesiacs went the other way, which is quite interesting. So I think in summary, it sounds like I'm hating on both albums, but I do like them. I've just dropped 40 quid on the upcoming vinyl re-release, so I must like them. Yeah, I think back to myself back then, I was disappointed. So that's probably just the hangover from that.
Yeah, mm-hmm. What about you?
Queen's Innuendo. Now, Queen are, both of us, they're our favourite band. And Innuendo is a very good album. Obviously, it's Queen's proper final album. But I've never loved it. And I come back to it every so often to listen to it, hoping this will be the time that I get it. Because most Queen fans think it is one of their best. And I just keep coming back to it every couple of years, and I think this will be the time. And no, same again. I just don't rate it highly in their overall catalogue. So yeah, very good album, but yeah, I'm more disappointed. I still don't love it. I want to love the album, and I bought it when it came out, and just still don't love it. So, but hey. All right, Brother Paul.
Yeah, one of Queen's best songs, and it's a song that I've always loved, and even before it was released as a single. And of course, the big irony is that was what was in it was just going down. It wasn't a big hit. It was going down the charts when Freddie died. Of course, The Show Must Go On, and so it was quite ironic. And the video as well, because obviously Freddie wasn't well. The video was just like a compilation of videos, almost promoting Greatest Hits 2. And I just think it's such an amazing song, and like Freddie's vocals are like amazing, and I believe he did it in one take, the vocals.
Amazing.
And yeah, and I think because he was really ill at that point, I think they had to give him vodka, and then he would get back up again, and he would down a vodka and then get up and do the vocals, the high bits. But actually, a lot of the song was written by Brian May, because a lot of people think it's Freddie, because there is bits of it that, like My Makeup May Be Flaky, but My Smile Stays On. That was him, but a majority of the song was written by Brian May, and a lot of people don't realise that.
Well, you were talking about you enjoyed the recording the Radiohead show. What other ones? If we were talking about the 3 that we enjoyed recording the most, what would you say other than the Radiohead one would be the ones that you enjoyed?
Probably because having the Lap of the Pods guys on when we were talking. Funnily enough, we were talking about Innuendo, and I just enjoyed it because, like these guys, some of the people who we've spoken to in the podcast there, who have their own podcast, that it's, I guess they played a part in us, or certainly me, wanting to do a podcast, so they've kind of inspired us to do this. So it was great having them on, kind of, you know, having dialogue with someone that you've listened to for a long time, but you're actually speaking to them. And I guess because we're massive Queen fans as well, there's that sort of connection. So certainly the Lap of the Pods would be one. And
do you know the one I didn't enjoy the most was the jazz album.
Right.
Because the jazz album is it's a quite a polarizing kind of album for a lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people love it, but other people have problems with certain tracks or just the way it sounds and all that. It was one of those ones where, you know, you'd been listening to it, and obviously I'd been a huge Queen fan. I'd listened to it many times before as well, but prior to doing the podcast, listening to it and still not, even up to the day we recorded the podcast, still not really knowing what you actually think about it and how to frame what I thought about certain things.
I like the John Lennon one, the What If, when we were talking about if there'd only been one album released in 1981 and John Lennon hadn't been tragically murdered, and what could have been. And so that was just interesting going through that. And I also think at that time we were kind of more professional in the way we did the podcast, just because of learning, because it felt like for me that was a really good show to an example of that show, where it was really good, and Paul putting in a lot of good input as well. And I guess it's a real interesting period as well.
So that was just like starting over. Paul Murphy, what do you think about this song?
Oh, I think it's a great intro. I think in for more ways than one, because the intro sounds like a more upbeat version of Plastic Ono Band, of the bells. So
the bells.
I think that's why it is. It's because although I think they should have chosen Women as the lead song, because it is the better one. But it's a great start to the album, and it is, if you're a John Lennon fan and you've sort of listened to it and you know that it sort of sounds like a nice sort of mirror image almost of Plastic Ono Band.
Brother Paul?
Yeah, he called it his Elvis Orbison.
That's right.
Song. But the thing is for me that, and for you guys as well, that we're doing this in the context that we know what happened to him after these songs were done. So it does give a different slant on it. And a lot of the song titles are really, it's quite eerie actually, you know, songs like Just Like Starting Over, Living on Borrowed Time, No Thoughts for Tomorrow. You know, there's so many songs. There's so many songs where, yeah, it's almost like there's premonitions or something. But Just Like Starting Over is a great song, and it's just really, it's a shame because it's just so optimistic about the future, and and a matter of weeks later you wouldn't have a future.
And I enjoyed, my third one would be Up album by R.E.M. It was just, to be honest, I'm not a massive fan of the album, but if you're talking about the show, I think there's good stuff on it, but if you're talking about the actual show, I just thought that was it was a really fun one to do. Just kind of the banter between the guests, and just things that you don't make, things that just happen naturally that are so funny. It's just like, Davey getting mixed up about when he's talking about I'm at my most beautiful, and he was talking about that was a tribute to the Bee Gees.
Yeah.
I'm like, do you not mean the Beach Boys? So things like that. And so I really enjoyed that. And it was just nice to hear people laughing as well and having fun. So
I wanted to do a Trimming the Musical Fat podcast first. And this is a little treat for Ross, because I know this is his all-time favourite R.E.M. song. So I've got my keyboard here, and what I wanted to do is play for Ross his favourite REM song, just a little snippet of it, and we'll see if he can actually make out what the song actually is. Here...
Go for it. Go for it.
Okay, here we go. Oh, it's even better than that, Davey. Here we go, Ross. Your favourite REM song.
Champion the Wonder Horse.
How special was that, guys?
Is that Eurocrats as reformed?
The world wishes, Paul. So, Ross, what was that song?
I've not got a clue. Is it Airport Man?
It is Airport Man.
Is it, right?
Yeah.
Initially, I thought, right, you came my favourite song, and I thought, that's definitely not.
Airport Man. I think that's going to be everybody's favourite from this album today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you? What would you say your three favourite shows?
I think three good choices by you, and the thing I would say as well, we obviously did recordings with other podcasts you've mentioned in the Lap of the Pods. We had Marv from Pods Like Us, and we had Sam from Paul or Nothing. And I think one of the nice things you find when you get into podcasting is actually how nice the podcast community is. And I think there's a real effort by everyone you deal with to help and share. And I think everybody's very supportive and eager to help. And obviously guest on other shows and so on. And that's a really nice thing. That I've found. It's a really good community. But yeah, in terms of the episodes, the Radiohead one was just hilarious to record because the music is obviously it's Radiohead, so it's by and large those albums are quite downbeat. So it's actually I think to listen to the songs and have some banter around them was definitely the funniest one we ever recorded.
Hunting bears. Let's all go and hunt some.
Christ. So anybody had considered putting that one on their cut?
Not considering it, but I quite like the guitar. I like the guitar on it. I like the guitar sound and the riff. But it's just maybe could do a song around it, maybe. A bit like I might be wrong. Yeah. But I quite like the riff, but nowhere near a final cut.
I think I was mentioning it to you maybe yesterday or the other day, Steve. I remember us being in the Edinburgh Film Festival about 15 years ago or something like that. And they had this Iranian film on that I was going to see, and it was just this policeman walking through some barren desert or landscape in Tehran, and then all of a sudden this song came on, and I was like, what's going on here?
Hunting bears.
So Davey, it wasn't soundtracking a happy family holiday in Florida, no?
No.
I think the Paul McCartney one we did, the What If episode, 1981 to 84, was it?
Oh yeah. 82, yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that because I think that was perhaps the first time we were, if you like, telling a story where we're obviously going through a timeline of events and so on. And I think that was the first time we were properly integrating audio clips from from the news and interviews and stuff like that. So that was great. That used to be bad.
It still
Which used to be good.
We don't need to hear any more of that one. I'll maybe kick us off with this. So obviously it's a blues jam type song which goes on for perhaps 4 minutes too long, which is a shame since the runtime of it is 4 minutes 12 seconds. Totally unremarkable. It should have been a bonus track or a B-side or even better, unreleased. So, oh man, you've equalised. Go on, Cavani. But yeah, to give it some credit, there is a nice guitar solo on it, which I think is played by Steve Miller. But yeah, I just don't think much of it. What about you, Paul Murphy?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. I mean, the album is what 55 minutes for the original runtime. It doesn't need to be on it. Again, it's sort of like typical. I think of McCartney by this point of sticking songs on when, like, we're doing this podcast. Like if he cut out some of the songs, he would have a much better need for it to be on there. It would have been great as a B-side. You know what I mean? And not as a single not as a song on an album.
Yeah, Paul.
Yeah, I just think it's just filler, really, isn't it? It's the reason why we do this podcast in many ways. For songs like this, it's just like, why put that on when there's so many great songs? It's almost like because he'd done a couple with Steve Miller, his old mate, I'll put a couple of songs on with you, Steve, but they're just boring. They're almost like sound checks or something.
And I think the third one would be the Bond ones we did.
That was excellent.
James Bond. I don't think we'll ever do anything at that scale again, because that was a massive undertaking, because that was really 6 hours of content there put out over two nearly 3 hour 2 near 3 hour episodes. So that was a massive undertaking to pull all that together. However, I'm glad it turned out so well, and it was great for the two of us to go through each Bond movie. That was great, just going through them one by one in chronological order and talking about the movies, the music, and it was great fun. So enjoyed that a lot.
My favourite Bond theme is Nobody Does It Better by Carly Simon, used in the film The Spy Who Loved Me. Reason being, and to simply quote Tom York from Radiohead, it is the sexiest song ever written. In terms of a Bond theme, it's got everything you want in there. It's a ballad. The orchestration is phenomenal. Carly Simon's voice is absolutely spot on. And as you may know, any pop music that uses brass, in my opinion, just ultimately is elevated to a higher echelon of music. So, yeah, if you don't think that is the best Bond theme, I will fight you.
So, time for the 2021 TTMF podcast statistics quiz. So, Paul, I'm going to test you about your own podcast. Okay, well, I've made it multiple choice to make it a little bit easier.
All right, okay.
So here we go. And you can play along at home too. So, question 1. The number of different countries that have listened to the podcast so far. Is it A, 29, B, 34, C, 39?
A, 29.
You are wrong. It is 39.
Right, okay. Well, that's a good one to be wrong on.
It sure is. Yeah, and you want to take a guess at what the 3 most popular are? So which countries listen to us the most?
The UK, the US, and Australia?
Australia, mate. Yep.
Okay.
So, UK, US, and Australia, although that can change between Ireland and Australia, depending. Yeah. So thank you to those countries for listening. So episode 2, question 2 even. What 3 episodes have been the most listened to this year? Is it A, the Beatles' White Album, Queen Innuendo, and Guns N' Roses' Use Your Illusion 1 episodes? Is it B, the U2 Pop episode, Oasis Morning Glory, not Morning Glory, it was Be Here Now, and Blur's Great Escape? Or is it C, Metallica's And Justice for All, Bruce Springsteen's The River, and R.E.M.'s Up? What do you reckon?
For A, the Beatles' White Album, Guns N' Roses, and whatever the other one was.
Queen. You are correct. Those are the 3 most listened to episodes.
Quite early ones as well.
Yeah. That's although a few are starting to catch up on them. Question 3: how many states in the USA have listened to the podcast? Is it A, 33, B, 38, or C, 43?
43, C.
That is correct. And Virginia is the most popular place that listens to the podcast. So hello, everybody in Virginia.
Hello in Virginia.
Question 4. Which guest has featured on the highest number of episodes? Is it A, Davy Mellon, B, Paul Murphy, C, Ross Braidwood?
B, Paul Murphy.
That is correct. Pablo Paul. And the final question. Of the albums we've covered, which is the biggest selling? Is it A, Pink Floyd's The Wall, B, Metallica's And Justice for All, or C, U2's Pop? Okay. So, yep, correct. It is Pink Floyd's The Wall, which is, I think, about 30 million. Would that be?
Yeah, around
I think it was around about that, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And let me throw in a bonus question. Of the albums we'll cover next year, which is the one you're least looking forward to listening to? Because I already know the answer to this.
The Stone Roses. The Second Coming. Yeah.
Which I'm looking forward to doing because neither of us are Stone Roses fans. In fact, I think, actively dislike them because so many people like them.
Yeah.
And because we'll get people on the show who really like it. And we'll give it a listen with an open mind. And I think we're hoping we'll be pleasantly surprised. But since I think a lot of Stone Roses fans don't even like the album, I would suggest, the odds are very low. Although it does have the Love Spreads on it, which I think is a brilliant song. The first single off the album. It's a great tune. So yes, that will be an interesting one to record. So let's kind of stick with 2022. Or any particular? I mean, I'll maybe run through some of the albums or songs or artists that we will take a look at next year, and maybe just talk about which of them perhaps you're looking forward to. So we've got, I think, Bon Jovi with These Days and Keep the Faith. We're going to have, but seriously, we're going to take a look at the Cheap Trick version of John Lennon's I'm Losing You. One I'm looking forward to. We're going to be working with In the Lap of the Pod guys again to do a What If episode on Queen from 81 to 84. I think we've got Use Your Illusion 2, Guns N' Roses, ELO's Out of the Blue, REM's New Adventures in Hi-Fi. We've got in there Alanis Morissette's supposed former infatuation junkie.
That's easy one to say.
Yeah, Genesis's The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, which I've never listened to all the way through before. We've got songs, I think, by Paul McCartney, Queen, Radiohead. What else have we got in there? U2's everlasting version of Everlasting Love, Ghost, Moby, Madonna. Prince, Diamonds and Pearls, the album. So yeah, there's a lot, and obviously that's not the full list. But any particular ones you're looking forward to there?
Probably the Queen one, 81 to 84. I think that'll be good. And fun enough, maybe the Genesis The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, because I just sort of listened to their early albums this year, so I think that'll be quite an interesting one to do. And even things like Bon Jovi, just sort of revisiting those albums as well. It'll be quite good. Yeah. What about you?
I'm looking forward to the Genesis one. And what we need to do is get my friend John Pollington on for that one. He said he would only ever come on for that album. And that's one of his favorite. He's a massive Genesis fan. He's actually seen them back in the day, and I went to see them in 92 or 93 at Edinburgh Playhouse with John. So it'd be nice to catch up with John to do that. But yeah, the Alanis Morissette one actually, because I've not listened to that in a long time, and I've always thought it was too long. But they're actually, if you take the best of the songs on there, for me, it's up there with what's her?
Jagged Little Pill.
Yeah, it's up there with Jagged Little Pill. So I just think she could have done with a bit of trimming, and I think that album might be a bit more highly regarded. So yeah, look forward to that as well. And it'd be nice to actually get round to doing Use Your Illusion 2, Guns N' Roses, as well. And I'm obviously a huge Prince fan, so doing the Diamonds and Pearls album is going to be good. And we're obviously getting Marv from Pods Like Us to join us for that one as well, because he's a Prince fan. So yeah, a lot of good stuff there. Looking forward to it. Should be good, and we'll have to see what other ones we can get in there as well.
Yeah, and just before we finish, I'm really looking forward to doing the ELO Out of the Blue. I think that'll be a good one.
Yeah, it should be good. So I mean, those are the ones we've got scheduled. But who else or what else should we cover? Please get in touch and let us know. We are always open to your opinions, and it was actually I can't remember which listener it was who recommended The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway early in the year. Do you remember who it was?
Yeah, I remember that. I can't remember who it was, but yeah.
So apologies to that individual who suggested it. So that's been at the back of my mind as one that we would do this year. So thank you for that suggestion. So we are pleased to announce that we are launching a new podcast in January called Trimming the Movie Fat. How did we come up with such an original name? And that is a podcast where we review the movies in a series and decide which are prime cuts and which are awful, i.e. we wish to erase them from the series. So the first few episodes are going to focus in on the 5 Die Hard movies and the Home Alone series. And let's just say there's a few howlers in there, which I've not watched them all, I have to say. And I'm not looking forward to watching the the latter ones. And I think that we're then going to pick up on the Jaws movies, weren't we?
Yeah.
Oh, I am, and I'm not looking forward to watching Jaws: The Revenge again. Absolutely awful. So looking forward to doing them. Which ones are you looking forward to, Paul?
Probably, I suppose initially our first one, the Die Hard ones, because we'll have a few friends who are big Die Hard fans as well, but aren't, I suppose, like a bit like ourselves. We love certain ones, but we really probably despise certain ones as well. So it'll be interesting to hear people's take on that as well, and because there's certain that are like almost like classic, and there's certain that are just certain ones that are just rubbish. So it'll be interesting just to kind of hear people's thoughts on them. I think in general a lot of our answers are probably similar.
I think so.
But you never know. That's what's good about these things.
Well, I can already categorically say, looking at the Die Hard, Home Alone, and Jaws, that the first two you really, really enjoy, and it's then variable quality after that.
Yeah, very inconsistent.
Yeah. So anyway, you'll be able to access the podcast via all the major podcast providers from January, and we'll be releasing new episodes on a monthly basis there. So 2021 is nearing its end, another in the shadow of COVID-19. However, onwards and upwards, and we're sure 2022 will continue our journey back to normality and Trim the Musical Fat will be there to soundtrack it for you. So thanks to you all for listening this year. We hope you've enjoyed what we've done as we jumped headfirst into the busy podcast waters. And a big thanks to our podcast regulars who guested on the show: Paul Murphy, Paul Mellon, Brian Borthwick, Ross Braidwood, Davey Mellon, Mark Poole, Jamie Kerr, Alan Trainer, and of course, our dad. So I hope I've not missed anyone there. And thanks to our fellow podcasters who guested, so the guys from In the Lap of the Pod, Sam from Poor Nothing, and Marv from Pods Like Us. So look out for several new episodes dropping between Boxing Day and New Year's Eve. Those are our festive gift to you. So have a great time celebrating the new year. See you in 2022. Until then, keep trimming.
Thank you. There 2 seconds. I'm just going to go for a quick wee, so I'll be very quick. Give me a second. I had to keep my microphone on there because I was scared if what's happening in the past when I've taken it out, I've lost.
Oh no, it was a real Naked Gun moment there.
It was, yeah.
It would have been better if you started singing a song. Okay.
I love it. I love it.